We can call it brainstorming. But actually, I think some of the people that are working on these ideas are having a football aneurysm, or they're giving me one. Mike Fisher in Frisco, home of the Dallas Cowboys. We've talked here before about how if we're smart, we're allowing ourselves to be open to virtually every possibility. What about that guy? What about that move? How about Wildcat and Jerry? How about this monster trade? How about doing this with Dak? How about restructuring to get $42 million worth of room? All these ideas. The best ones, frankly, are ones that come from somebody in the media. Well, let me take that back. Some of the best ones come from you. But the ones that I think carry the greatest weight are the ones that come from somebody inside the building who can guide somebody like me or somebody like you into saying, well, here's something that will work. The idea of moving up in the draft and getting a quarterback, that should be thought about for the Dallas Cowboys. It should. The idea of trading Dak should be thought about. Need to be aware of it. We've covered that. How would it work? Who would take him? How much? What's the reward? Where does he go? All those things are without answers, but they need to be explored. Draft a replacement. Sign him to a long-term deal. Tag him for 1 year and then say goodbye. Dump him in favor of Ben Roethlisberger? What? Florio! This odd what if comes courtesy of the fertile mind of Mike Florio at ProFootballTalk.com. Now, I'm going to tell you something. I appreciate what Florio's built. I mean, I'm sitting there at 3 a.m. working on a story. I'll go look at Twitter, and there's Florio at 3 a.m. working on a story. At this point, he'd been doing this a long enough time. I think he's probably made a fortune. He doesn't have to sit there at 3 a.m. and write a story about the Colts practice squad. But he does, and I admire him for that. I think that's the right way to do what we do. That part's great. But the feces against the wall thing. Pro Football Talk has mastered the art of not just aggregating rumors, which is a necessary evil of what we all do now. We do it. I do it. I can't tell you how much I 2 years ago, you could have never convinced me I was ever going to be interested in that. Wouldn't touch it. Now I just realized, listen, there's 5,000 people who cover the Cowboys. I can't possibly not acknowledge that somebody else got a story anymore. I could do that in 1995. There was 3 of us who mattered. Now there's 3,000 of us. And by the way, with social media, there's 30 million of you. So that's 30 million people with ideas, and I'm listening, and I'll take your idea and I'll work with your idea, and we'll mold it together. And then sometimes somebody else writes something and it's viable or valuable or crazy, and we'll write about that. And it's okay now. I've mellowed. But Pro Football Talk has not only mastered the art of the aggregation, they've also mastered the art of being the originator of the ridiculous rumor that ends up getting aggregated. From the pen of Mike Florio, quote, "The Steelers, fully aware that they may not have enough around quarterback Ben Roethlisberger to justify bringing him back for another year, suddenly seem to be ambivalent about an ongoing relationship. So if, and it's still a fairly big if, the Steelers decide to sever ties with Big Ben, he'll become a free agent. The question then becomes whether he'd continue his career with another team." I think I just read like 5 ifs. in one sentence. So nobody's pretending here yet. Lots of questions, lots of ifs, but not enough questions or ifs to slow the PFT train. Florio continues writing. It's a topic that he's never addressed, talking about Ben, I guess. It's a topic that before GM Kevin Colbert was non-committal about Ben, was never relevant. Now it's moving closer towards that category, Florio writes. He continues, if Ben would be willing to explore another year or two with another team, the question then becomes whether another team would want him. What does any of this have to do, you might ask, with your beloved Dallas Cowboys? Florio actually lists 12 candidates. He said it was going to be 13. Then the Colts did Wentz. So Florio had 13 teams that he saw as options for Ben. 13. Ben is about to turn 39. That's not good. Ben can be a bit of a drama queen, drama king. That's not good. Ben's immobility has become a liability if you watched the Steelers last year. And then there's this, if you watched the Steelers last year. His throwing motion is slow. Remember the Dan Marino quick release? If Ben ever had that, and I think he did to some level at one point, that's gone. Florio writes that, quote, the potentially viable options, a full dozen viable options, include the Cowboys if they let Dak Prescott walk. And I'm quoting Mike now. Quote, the Cowboys if they let Dak Prescott walk. Forget for a moment that while acknowledging the never say never NFL world in which we really do live, it's real. Brainstorm, spitball, throw it against the wall. There's no evidence of this. Nobody told Florio this. Jerry didn't tell Florio this. Stephen didn't. Will McClay didn't. Mike McCarthy didn't. Nobody did. I'm careful when we talk about some of this stuff now because, as I'm quick to remind you and myself, Florio broke the story on Deshaun Watson, on disgruntled Deshaun. He did. And I poked fun at it. It just seemed so ridiculous. And I was wrong. He still hasn't been traded, but Florio had the tone he had the tone right. Somebody told him that. He didn't make that up. I don't think anybody told Pro Football Talk that the Cowboys view Ben Roethlisberger as an option. Under what circumstances are the Cowboys going to, quote, let Dak walk? Skip Bayless did this the other day, too. I believe me, I cringe bringing this up. But I saw the headline. I love Dak, but the Cowboys should let him walk. First of all, you do not love Dak. You don't love the Cowboys. And you can't let him walk. He's the most valuable commodity on your team. Maybe your best player. You're not going to let your 27-year-old, unless his leg fell off in surgery, you're not going to let your 27-year-old Pro Bowl quarterback walk. It's preposterous. He is arguably their best player and inarguably their most valuable commodity. We can and we have brainstormed our way to a dozen scenarios that would have Prescott playing elsewhere in 2021. Those scenarios include Dak signing his tag and then leaving in a trade in exchange for a similarly talented quarterback. You have to get that back. The scenarios include Dak signing his tag and then leaving in exchange for premium picks. Jets, are you listening? The scenarios do not include letting Dak walk. so he can be replaced by Ben Roethlisberger. You can't have contractual control of a Dak Prescott and then let it go. You just can't. It would be unprecedented. Believe me, I will. I said this before about Florio. If the Cowboys, they wouldn't have to release him. He's free. If the Cowboys simply didn't, if they don't tender Dak Prescott, they say, "See ya," and sign Ben Roethlisberger. I just think people are conjuring this stuff up. And I think we need to draw a line between, hey, here's an idea. That's okay. I wish Mike would have written that. Here's an idea that I, Mike Florio, have. The Cowboys should do something with Dak, not let him walk. That's not an idea. The Cowboys should whatever with Dak and move along from Dak. Get something, trade Dak. Sign him, tender him, tag him, sign it, trade him, and then get Ben Roethlisberger to play for $20 million instead of the 40. That's an idea that you said I thought of. But Mike writes about this. This is a Cowboys option. Maybe we should brainstorm hard enough, because I never thought of this. I never thought, let's go get a 39-year-old washed up guy who's a Steelers legend who the Steelers don't want anymore and have him replace the dynamic Dak Prescott, because I'm just going to let the dynamic Dak Prescott leave for, I don't know, maybe he can go to Pittsburgh. Maybe Dak Prescott will go to Pittsburgh for nothing. You won't get anything for him because you're letting him walk, and you'll take Ben. Maybe we're not brainstorming hard enough, or maybe the people who are conjuring up this stuff think they're brainstorming when actually they're suffering from a football aneurysm. Fish out.